Good evening. Am I ready? Welcome to the meeting of the Plymouth Community School Board for December 5th, 2016. If you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming this evening. Our first item is to set the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections?
Yes, 2.8 appointments. Ann Burton, accompanist at the high school. 2.9 transfers. Hillary Barker from sub teacher and aide at PHS to EML teacher, half day effective December 5th. Melissa Payne, Lincoln Junior High, cafeteria, cashier, and sub-cashier. Substitutes, Emily Evelyn, substitute teacher aide, Brandon Ritchie, substitute teacher aide, and Michael Roach, substitute teacher. Overnight request for the PHS girls volleyball, basketball request for an overnight trip in the Norwell Shootout in Bluffton, Indiana. An out-of-state request, WDA, third grade request for an out-of-state trip to the Shed Aquarium in Chicago, Illinois. That's all.
Thank you. With those additions, I'll entertain a motion on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is set. Item 1.3, audience participation. Are there members of the audience that would like to discuss any agenda items this evening? Not all at once here. We'll have another chance near the end of the meeting, but thank you for being here. Moving on to section 2 for our consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that a board member would like to have pulled out and considered separately? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, section 3, our business transactions, item 3.1, focus on learning. This evening we have the Widener School of Inquiry.
Yes, we have 2 of our WSOI facilitators and multiple students here to tell us what they've been up to here lately.
We have Dylan Connor and Grant Masson, and they are co-facilitators of our integrated sophomore American Perspective course, which is dual credit U.S. History and English 10, and the students are looking forward to telling you about their learning through Hamilton.
So we do want to get out of the way and give it over to the students because it's their show. But first we want to give you a little bit of context. So this was our first project of the year, which is for U.S. History and English 10, our sophomore block. And this originally started as a very different project, but Hamilton was a smash hit. We were both big fans, and so we decided to actually build a new project around the use of Hamilton in the classroom. And so our goals when we were putting it together were using our U.S. History and English standards. First, to look at the elements of story on the English side, both analyzing stories that are written using the musical, and then also in writing and composing their own stories. And then for U.S. History.
The challenge is how to bring old dead white guys to life, and that's the beauty of pairing with English, that you can come up with a project such as this. So I took the U.S. History standards for the time period that we were studying, and then we got them together and got our heads together and figured, well, how can we teach it in a creative way? And that's when Hamilton popped up, and that's when it was born. So It speaks to the kids. It's the music of the kids, and ends up to be our music as well.
Great, so we'd like to invite up, we have 7 students here, and they'll introduce themselves, and they'll take you through what Hamilton is, what we did in class, and what they ended up doing as their final product. So to begin, we'd like to ask up Daniel and Cece.
Okay, so I'm Cece Robinson, and for those of you who may not know, Hamilton is a hip-hop musical about the life of American founding father Alexander Hamilton. It uses rapid-fire rapping, contemporary pop music, clever puns, perfectly pitched jokes, and historical storytelling in a format like never before to captivate its audience, people all around the world, and our American Perspectives classes. It features a talented and racially diverse cast of singers, dancers, and rappers who never cease to amaze. And so
Sounds
to
a
give you,
lot like our school board meeting.
so to give you a better idea about what we're talking about, I'm going to show you a short clip from Hamilton. It's called, a song called Yorktown, and then President Obama is speaking about it before at the Tonys.
America's first Treasury Secretary.
I confess, we all laughed, but who's laughing now? 7 years later, Hamilton has become not only a smash hit, but a civics lesson our kids can't get enough of.
The Battle of Yorktown. 1781. Monsieur Hamilton.
Monsieur Lafayette!
In command where you belong.
Are you saying no sweat? We're finally on the field, we've had quite a run.
Immigrants, we get the job done. I go back to France, I bring freedom to my people if I'm given a chance.
We'll be with you when you do.
Go lead your men.
See you on the other side.
Till we meet again. Let's go.
The world turns upside down. Marionette decks, so much beautiful like a memory. This is where it gets me. On my feet, the enemy ahead of me. If this is the end of me, at least I have a friend with me. Fighting with my hands in command and my men with me. Then I remember my Elias is expecting me. Not only that, my Elias is expecting. So we gotta go, we gotta get the job done. Gotta start a new nation, gotta meet my son. Take the bullets out your gun, the bullets out your gun. We move undercover and we move as one. Through the night, we have one shot to live another day. We may not let a straight gunshot give us a way. We won't fight up close. It's either moment to stay in it. It's either gotta meet the business and live a day in it. Cold War is Rochambeau, Dickie. Turn the boys down, go man, go. Show me the American experiment. Maybe with my friends all scattered to the winds. No one's in South Carolina. Being fighting bravery will never be.
Okay. And every year since 7th grade in our history class, we have learned about the American Revolution. So when I heard that we were going to be learning about the American Revolution, again, I wasn't super thrilled. But then we listened to the first song, and I was instantly hooked. I loved the music. I loved the lyrics. I just thought it was a great way of learning. Hamilton also did a great job at shaping the Founding Fathers into real people. We're used to, when we think of the Founding Fathers, think of maybe a painting or a topic in a history book. But this made the Founding Fathers seem like real people with thoughts, and they dealt with their own problems, and it just made them like real people, amazing people. And it also won many prizes, including the Pulitzer Prize for Drama, the Drama Desk Award, and the Outstanding Musical Award, and 11 Tonys. Next, we'd like to call up Elizabeth to talk more about what we did in the project.
Okay, so the educational influence on Hamilton. So although the musical mainly focuses on Hamilton's life, we predominantly learned about the American Revolution as a whole. Throughout the Hamilton soundtracks, we mainly focused on songs with lyrics that had a historical response and impacted us educationally. So for example, in one of the songs we chose, the lyrics say, "Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We fought for these ideals, we shouldn't settle for less." So obviously this is talking a little bit more about the Declaration of Independence, which we did learn about through our project. And to follow along the history curriculum, we tied these songs in with the journal that made sure we were fully understanding the whole revolution.
these journals, after we would listen to a segment of Hamilton, we would then, like she said, we would write a journal. The journals consisted of 4 parts: a summary, an analysis, a historical response, and then a focus prompt. The summary was just a simple 1-sentence summary of each song that we listened to. The analysis, here we looked at how each song functioned as an overall part of the story. We weren't describing what happened necessarily in the song, we were just describing how it functioned as part of Hamilton. And then we'd move on to a historical response, where we would find a chunk of lyrics and we'd show how that lyric directly related to the American Revolution. And then finally we'd finish with a focus prompt, which was different for each journal that we did. This focus prompt was based off of something that we had listened to during the musical. So here I have an example from one of my journals from the historical response. The lyrics were, "We negotiate the terms of surrender. I see George Washington smile. We escort their men out of Yorktown. They stagger home single file." This chunk of lyrics showed the state of the Revolution after the Battle of Yorktown. The state of the Revolution was, hey, we won the war. We're going to be our own independent nation. The untrained, uncommitted army finally came together to beat the British, who had the best military in the world at the time. The colonists were able to show their resilience and end the British rule in order to become a free and independent nation.
Hello, I'm Nicole Keller, and I'll be explaining the impact that Hamilton has had on the students. The musical Hamilton captivated the American Perspectives class. Through 46 songs, students were able to fully understand the content of the American Revolution. 100% of the surveyed American Perspectives class believed that Hamilton taught them in an as effective or better way than a traditional method. And 55% of those students believed that Hamilton taught them to the best of their abilities. Student Cole Filson said that this was one of the few of the people that played big roles in the American Revolution. This enabled myself to gain more information on the topic overall and the view of a person's perspective during the American Revolution. Edgar Garcia said it kept everyone interested while still showing us the historical view of the Revolution. And student Ariana Baca said, "I would much rather listen to Hamilton because it is more interactive and it helps us learn. Not only that, but it related us to modern day events." Hamilton the musical was not just a collection of catchy tunes and lyrics, but it was a way for students to be intrigued and for the United States history standards to not only be learned, but to be explored and applied. And now we will hear from Bridget Schaefer and Jack Garner more on the final product and a little preview of it.
Now, this whole project we did wasn't just listening to cool music. We did have a final presentation in the end. We were split up in our class with groups of 3 or 4 students, and our goal was to write a musical or a play that had 12 scenes of our own original content. We had to base it off of the way Hamilton was designed, but we had to make sure it worked with another American revolutionary. For example, I did Benedict Arnold.
So did I. We were in a different class. Our driving question for this entire project was, who lives, who lives, who tells your story? And this is an excerpt from the musical. As part of the song, as you can see, there are many beautiful quotable lines from this musical. And it had the students think, it got us thinking about our legacy. Hamilton is a journey. It's about Alexander Hamilton's legacy. His whole goal in life was to set up a suitable legacy, not only for himself and his children, but for his country. And this got us thinking, who tells our story? What are we leaving behind? And that was the overall driving question of this project.
Now, throughout this whole project, we were graded on all 5 learning outcomes of project-based learning, that being agency, collaboration, knowledge and thinking, oral communication, and written communication. And what's really unique about this is that not every project we do is able to incorporate all 5 of these.
Now, I'm not going to bore you with a detailed description of every assignment we did, but in like every WSOI class, we have benchmarks when we do a process and when we do a project. And that always includes initial research, and we do essential questions, which helps us understand more of the background. And that helped us developing our characters, developing our plots, and developing each of our 12 pieces. And like in every project, we work with our classmates. We read their scripts. They read our scripts. We give each other feedback. And that's the beauty of WSOY.
Now, through this whole project, there were things that we enjoyed. We had a lot of fun, but there were also plenty of obstacles we had to overcome. The thing I know I personally enjoyed the most is the creativity and freedom to imagine with our pieces. Again, we had to write 12 original pieces based off of how we interpreted our revolutionary's life. And for our group, it was over 20 pages in Google Drive of lyrics and historical content. Another thing I really enjoyed was that we were allowed to perform in a theater setting. We performed in the studio theater in the speech wing of the high school. So it was just neat kind of getting on that on-stage experience. But that was an obstacle we also had to overcome. Many of us have stage fright, and it was so weird to go up there in front of your classmates and present something that you're being graded harshly for. Another major obstacle, again, was writing the 12 original pieces. It just seemed really daunting at the time.
And finally, I'd like to give you an excerpt from my project.
And I'm going to get out of the way.
Our final performance was a telling of the American story, our story of origin, through poetry, satire, song, rap. It was all up to us. And I'd like to give you some of that on-stage performance. Premature America sitting at the brink of a turn in the tides, dangerous enterprise, precarious like a ship about to sink, the prospect blacker than India ink. But somewhere in the masses was a man who could think, let's meet the man of the hour. He was brave, hungry, succinct, but in a grab for power, he betrayed his own side in a political scandal that was first of its kind. He wanted to be brave, he wanted to be the man, but an injury kept it from it. This was not part of the plan. Left to obscurity, his mind was taken, sleight of hand, and he was dismissed to no man's land. Brave but unrecognized, injured and chastised, his ambition of glory left behind, he was made blind by those people he thought were on his side, who turned aside and left him high and dry. And all he ever wanted was to free his motherland, but in the end he had taken all that he could stand. And when they caught him, the world would finally understand how insecurity and longing go hand in hand.
We did want to just offer a chance for questions to the students or us. So if there are any questions or...
I just comment, you definitely came out of your shell. I certainly hope that the teachers give you an A+ for all that. Very good.
Yeah.
I have a question. A few slides ago, you mentioned the 5 elements. What is agency?
Agency is the work you do during the project, more so how you turn it in, rather than waiting till the last minute doing a really poor job, but rather using your time wisely and getting it done.
It's a work ethic, learning outcome.
So what are you going to follow this up with, teachers?
That's what they're asking us. It's challenged us to come up with something just as good, and I think we have another good one.
Oh, good.
Very good.
Excellent. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You do use the cleansed version.
Okay, it's going to be hard to follow up, but here we go. Item 3.2, a student presentation.
Let me introduce Annie Keller. Annie came to me a couple of weeks ago and said she had started a project at the high school that was something that was good for our students. She'd done it because of her Girl Scout program, and she wanted to know if she could get this out to the board two reasons. She's proud of it, and also she wanted to get where's our press? Some press out of it. I see you already have your press in the paper, so excellent. Maybe they're recording it, they can watch the video and write the article from that. So here's Annie.
Here. Hello, my name is Annie Keller, and I'm a sophomore at the Widener School of Inquiry at PHS. I'm also a Girl Scout with Troop 30431, and I am working to earn my Gold Award. The Gold Award is the highest and most prestigious award a Girl Scout can earn. To earn the award, I had to identify a community issue that I care about, create a sport team, and create a take action project that achieves a sustainable and measurable impact. I decided to create a personal hygiene closet here at PHS. After realizing that there may be a need for hygiene items by my fellow students, personal hygiene items are not covered by food stamps, and only limited amounts are available at local food banks. It can easily cost up to $10 for the basic hygiene items that we use daily. The PHS Personal Hygiene Supply Closet is stocked with only the needed personal hygiene products like soap, toothpaste, and deodorant. The closet does not have any makeup, nail polish, or hairstyling products. The closet is in the nurse's office and is available to every student. The closet was stocked the first week of October. Since then, six bottles of shampoo, 12 tubes of toothpaste, 15 toothbrushes, 4 packs of feminine care items, and 26 of deodorant have been taken. The only thing that has not been taken is the toilet paper. With the weather changing, last Friday I added lip balm. On October 14th, a mass email was sent out to the students informing them that the closet is available, and if you have a need, you can get personal hygiene items at no cost. I'm in the process of hanging up flyers around the school. And this is the flyer. I also sent out this video to the staff informing them about my project.
I said I have everything you sent to Rob. Is it in the second page? Where's it at? Is it on your machine? Is it a Google Drive or just on your machine?
Just on the machine. Maybe you can hold it up. Yeah. Maybe you can hold it up for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically the stuff they can hear.
Can we set it on the desk?
Here we go.
Hello, staff of Plymouth High School. My name is Amy Keller, and I am a sophomore here at PHS. I am also a senior Girl Scout, and I am working on earning my Gold Award. The Girl Scout Gold Award is the highest and most prestigious award a Girl Scout can earn. To earn the award, I have to identify a community issue that I care about and create a take action project that achieves a sustainable and measurable impact. I decided to create a personal hygiene closet here at PHS. It will be in the nurse's office and has soap, shampoo, deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrushes, and feminine hygiene items. The items are to help the student who may not have the basic daily hygiene items at home. If a student expresses a need for the closet, please direct them to the nurse's office and they can get the items that they need at no cost. The closet will only provide the basic hygiene items and no beauty products. My hope is by having the basic daily necessary items that they need, a student can build their self-confidence. Thank you.
Donations have been given by women's organizations, my church, and my 4-H club. Also, a women's organization has pledged to keep the closet stocked with feminine hygiene items that are needed. For each donation I've received, I sent out a thank you note on the back of this flyer. In the spring, I plan on finding a club at school that will be willing to take it over, maintaining the project as a service project. I will also create an informational packet that can be shared with Lincoln Junior High and the Riverside Intermediate to see if they feel a similar closet would be beneficial to their school. Acceptance is important to teenagers. By having the basic personal hygiene items available to them, they can feel like they fit in. It might just give them the self-esteem and confidence they need to apply for a job. And I would also like to thank Mrs. Flynn for being my project advisor. Do you have any questions?
I just want to say congratulations. This is an awesome project, and I do think it's very much needed. Very good job.
Thank you.
If somebody wants to donate something, should they drop it off at the nurse's office or?
You can drop it off to the school.
School.
I think you should talk to some of the service clubs around town, because I think you could probably get a lot more donations as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 3.3, thank you very much for that. To consider a school board appointment to the library board.
Yes, Susie Reinhold is here to make a recommendation to the library board member from the school. Come on up.
I don't need to come up, but I do recommend Lisa Miller be reappointed. She's a great board member. Probably a lot of you know this. Yes, we do.
So there's a recommendation, is there a motion? There you go.
So moved.
Second.
Continue, please.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Susie, congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susie.
I'm a short timer.
Enjoy.
Item 3.4, consider a proposal for workers' comp, property, and casualty insurance.
Yes, we had two local insurance agencies who put in a bid for our workman's comp, property and casualty insurance. And they requested to have some time to make a presentation before the board. So I would like to start, and since the one on top here is on top, I'll say Gibson Insurance, you can go first, and then we'll hear from Morrow Insurance.
Thank you. My name is Brian Kubicki, and I'm an executive at Gibson Insurance. President Samuelson, board members, Superintendent Tyree, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present this evening. I've pulled out 4 documents, 4 pages from our thicker proposal for you, and these are meant to kind of highlight a few things: the program features, the overall cost, some of your history, loss history and premium history, and our team. And my portion of the presentation, and I want to focus on our team, and I've got 2 reasons for this. We work with a number of different school corporations, and we work with a number of different insurers that insure school corporations in Indiana. And for the most part, insurance coverage for schools doesn't change significantly from carrier to carrier. They all offer for schools educators' legal liability, law enforcement, sexual abuse and molestation. They'll all also offer endorsements that broaden coverage to kind of fit the unique exposures that school systems have, such as they'll expand the definition of who is insured to include school-affiliated organizations. They'll also include corporal punishment, which normally would be excluded, but it's included for schools because sometimes schools do that. So in general, if you're working with an insurance company that is used to working with schools in Indiana, you're going to get more or less the same coverage. There's going to be some details. So that's one reason that I want to focus on the team, because I don't know that that is a good use of time. Secondly, I want to focus on the team because insurance is really only a small component of a good risk management program. And at that, although it's necessary, it's really pretty limited. It's reactive. And what I mean by that, I'll give an example. Let's say, for example, that Lincoln Junior High was gutted by fire over the weekend. Your insurance is going to respond and respond very well. It's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do. It's going to give you a check. And you might even have that check fairly quickly. and you're currently insured with Hanover, they're used to catastrophic events. They handled the Henryville tornado for Henryville schools. So you might even get some help from them getting back on your feet. But you're still going to have to find a place to educate your students. And even if you have a plan in place for that catastrophe, it's still going to require your administration's time. It's going to put those students' worlds upside down. And it's going to force teachers in a new location as well. You're just going to have to take some time to get up to speed. You're not going to be as effective at your core mission as you would be if we could have prevented that fire from happening in the first place, or maybe limited it to a small portion of the building so you can use the building. So insurance has this limitation. About 20 years ago, insurance companies started to pull back on some of the services that they were offering, and so Gibson started to invest in some of that. We have a team of dedicated loss prevention specialists. We have a claims department, 6 claims folks. And as we started to kind of realize the limitations of standard insurance and the service we provided our clients, we wanted to make sure that we could also be proactive with our clients. And we brought the resources we had. So about 5 years ago, we started to be a little more formal about it, helping our clients identify risks, prioritize those risks, and identify strategies that could help prevent, mitigate, transfer risk, and ultimately then finance with insurance. And if you focus on those first 3, you actually find that your insurance premiums will decrease because your history looks better, your loss history. You don't have the losses, you're not using it so much. And that was very powerful for us. The other thing we determined is that you could do this in teams around certain industries, and school education being one of those industries. So we put together a team about 3 years ago that focuses on schools and educational issues and serving schools in this way. And we serve all 4 of those loss prevention strategies: prevention, mitigation, risk transfer, and ultimately insurance. I'm going to introduce my teammates as I talk through what they do on this team. And I'm going to start with that prevention, because if we can prevent the losses from happening, that's best for everyone in the long run. Our loss prevention specialist, who's dedicated to Plymouth schools and works with most of our school corporations, is Andy Metzger. Andy is based in Plymouth, in our Plymouth office. He can handle things like many different types of trainings. For example, he can do general trainings that would apply to many different employers, such as OSHA compliance training. But he also does some tailored training specifically for schools around perhaps classroom safety, bus safety, food service safety. He can also then perform building inspections, safety and security inspections for buildings and playgrounds. He can help with safety committees. He can help with accident investigations if you'd like to learn based on what's happened, how to become better. And because he works with a number of different schools, he's able to take best practices from other schools and bring them to each of our schools and really kind of focus that effort. The mitigation strategy, that's going to be handled primarily through our claims department. Shauna Nielsen handles our claims department. She is a proud Plymouth High School graduate. We won't say when.
91. I'm okay with that. 91.
But we have 6 dedicated claims people in our claims department. Shauna works with most of our schools as well, both from a consulting standpoint where you're reviewing the claims history, claims trending, but also from the standpoint of looking at claims and advocating on behalf of our clients with adjusters to reduce reserves, that money that they've set aside on a claim, and to close out claims more quickly. And ultimately what this leads to, then, if you don't do those things, the insurance company sees those and will base your premiums on that. So it's important to kind of reduce those or close those claims out before they hit the losses for the insurance company. The risk transfer piece deals primarily through contract, where if you're dealing with somebody else and it makes more sense for them to carry the risk, you want to make sure that the contract provides for appropriate insurance. Diane Davidson and I kind of tag team on that. With my legal background, her technical background, we're able to kind of recommend before contracts are signed, what makes sense from an insurance standpoint to require other parties to maintain insurance. Or if they're asking for insurance that doesn't make sense for you to have, we provide that service. Finally, Diane Davidson is our insurance technical expert. She's been doing this for 15 years, working with public schools the whole time. She knows the basic insurers, the main insurers in Indiana. She knows their forms. She tracks the rates that they give, that they're charging our schools, and keeps that in the document so that she can use that to make sure the rates that we're getting are consistent and competitive. The other thing she's able to do is look at forms. Some forms do have some weaknesses, and she can negotiate because she knows where those are. She's familiar enough with them. She'll negotiate that language out of there and get language that makes sure that you're appropriately covered. So through that kind of comprehensive approach to risk management, ultimately our goal is to allow clients to reduce over the long term, with a long-term commitment, the premiums they pay, as well as to stabilize those premiums through a fluctuating market. insurance market. Speaking of long-term commitment, we have a long-term commitment to the community and to Plymouth schools. I've asked Bob Sturgeon, who heads up our Plymouth office, to come in and talk about that.
Yeah, so they bring in the old guy to talk about the long history. So most of what first off, thank you for your time on the school board. I know most of you. And really what I'm here to do is to talk a little bit about just the history. Gibson was founded in 1933, so that was 83 years ago. Well over half of that time, we had the schools under our watch. So for over 45 years, and I can't give you an exact date because I wasn't there 45 years ago, but I was with Gibson 31 years ago. And 31 years ago, the school corporation and the schools were our most important client. And I can tell you today, that holds true today. The schools are still our most important client, and some of our Gibson people are here today. Which you know, Annie Metzger, Art Jacobs, Brad Surf is not here, but these are individuals that are homegrown, and they have succeeded at Gibson. They've become owners of Gibson, and the school corporation is very much on our minds on a daily basis. So, Dan, you mentioned that it's about workers' compensation and it's about property and casualty insurance. I want to clarify that. Number one, it's about your personal liability. You're the school board. You have personal liability, each one of you, for the things that go wrong. For 31 years, I have taken seriously the fact that at Gibson, it's not that we prevent problems for you, but it's how we fix the problems when they do occur. And I hope for the 45 years plus that we have handled the school systems that we've been able to demonstrate that we're well suited as a partner for the schools here in Plymouth. So a few things besides insurance. Some 31 years ago, that's pretty much what we did at Gibson, was just insurance. We have built a platform that now includes safety and loss prevention, claims management, claims consulting, additionally driver training and driver screening. We've had situations with security in the schools. And along that way, we have built up our school business. So Plymouth is not the only school that we represent today. We have dedicated a niche within Gibson, which now handles many school systems. So when we talk about insurance today, that's a component of risk management. And so our conversation is much broader, and when problems happen in schools, we're able to mitigate some of those problems that come along. And that's the value added that's built in. For the most part, the insurance relationship is how we're compensated, and all of that value that we built in our platform is included in what we provide. So probably, I guess, as a parting words, I want to thank you for that business. You know, you've entrusted us with an awesome responsibility at Gibson, and we take that seriously. So from Shauna Nielsen, who is now our Director of Risk Management, who started with Gibson some over 30 years ago, you know, she's been an important part of that. Annie Metzger, who of course has been with Hoosier Racing Tire and the fire chief, it's an awesome thing that we can grow in our risk management platform, and we hope that we can continue the relationship. So, but thank you again for entrusting your program to us.
Any questions? Yeah, thank you. Before we get into Marl, is there any questions for the Gibson folks? I'd written it down, you touched on about how many other schools do you all work with, do you think?
We work with 10 schools total. 6 of those are public schools.
Northern Indiana or?
All Northern Indiana.
Penn Harris private schools from La La Mer to Stanley Clark, but then Penn Harris, New Prairie is a good comparable, Oregon Davis, Elkhart Schools is a recent acquisition, South Bend Schools, and Valpo, and growing. So if you have any connections, we always look for referrals, Todd. So.
I have lots of connections. I don't know how good they are, but I have lots of connections. Any other questions for Gibson folks?
Okay, I see Morrow's in the building, so Dave, take the floor.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. And Mr. Kyrie, Mr. Hartley, thank you so much for welcoming us in here and giving us an opportunity to give the corporation a proposal. I agree with many things that Brian said. And quite truthfully, I'm appreciative that it's down to 2 agencies from Plymouth, Indiana, and not somebody from outside, because we are vested here and we pay taxes here, and it's an important thing. And I have a lot of respect for my friends over there. But anyway, many of the things that I was going to say, Brian said for me, but I'm going to reiterate part of them. We are a much smaller agency in scope than Gibson in both premium volume and number of employees. But we made a transition almost 10 years ago, and we joined an insurance franchise called Keystone. And it's a partnership of independent insurance agents, not only from Indiana, which there's 34 of them, but all across the country. And it's really literally a franchise. We are viewed from the insurance companies as one. They treat us as one. We aggregate our premiums. And with that, we are afforded many more resources than we were individually 10 years ago, some of which is risk management, some of which is human resources, some of them is claims expertise. So we have positioned ourselves very, very well to service all types of accounts, including public accounts. And I want to give a shout out to my crew, and I'm only going to mention just a few and how we're going to service the Plymouth Schools account. Vicki Calcott, who is with me, I think most of you know, she and I are going to team up and be co-account managers on the account. We have, and I've been in the business almost as long as Bob, but 34 years. This January will be my 34th year, and Vicki 30 years this next year as well. So between the two of us, we've had a lot of experience. Vicki is a student of insurance. She's got her CPCU and CIC, which are really highly acclaimed designations within our industry, and I have my CIC. So we truly do break down coverages. We analyze gaps of coverage and fill that and protect our clients, all our clients. We have the CSR that will be servicing your accounts, been doing commercial CSR work. That's customer service representative for the last 18 years, very experienced. And we have a full-time claims person who mitigates claims as well, coordinates it between the client and the insurance company and acts as a conduit and follows everything up. And it's worked remarkably well for us. One of the things that I wanted to mention that maybe is a little different from how we do our business is we are a commission-based, we gave you guys a commission-based quote. So the price that you have is the price. And in some of the slides up there, and the insurance company that we're presenting is Selective Insurance. and they have a group of people, and this is part of the services that come with the premium that you guys are paying, and it's built into the actual price. But they do the everything from building valuations to analyzing bleachers and soccer fields and setting up driver's training programs and helping the school corporation implement safety programs. So, you know, you got to look at it a little bit that, you know, sometimes, and most insurance companies have this, so you don't really want to be in a position where you're paying for the services twice. Because they have people on their staff that's what they do. And it may have been a flaw in the RFP form that was sent out, and I didn't see it in the policies that we were sent, but it was mentioned, so it very well could be there. The police professional liability at least wasn't in the piece of information that we received, so it's something you guys ought to look into. The flood endorsement, and Brian kind of alluded to it, every company has different enhancement endorsements. These are specialized for schools, but you know, each company is a little bit different. And why we're not in a high flood area, I think the specs call for $1 million of flood coverage. For what it's worth, our program throws in $1 million per location with a $10 million aggregate. And just in case there's been some crazy things going on in our country the last 10, 15 years. So finally, part of the claims process is in the analyzing, and something that we do is on a however the school corp wants to do it, but we'll come in quarterly and go over the actual claims that are occurred, the outstanding reserves, and stay on top of it and make sure that it's not, you know, you're not being charged for something that you shouldn't be. But we insured schools. I listed in our proposal a reference from a business manager from Logansport that I've dealt with in the past. And anyway, we're ready to do it. We're prepared to do it, and we're equipped to do it. And I thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions for Dave?
Thank you.
Questions? All right, at this point, we've spent the last 10 days looking at the proposals that we've gotten from both insurance agencies, Candy and I. Like Dave said, each thing is a little bit different. We have some different names for things, so you're not always free to think that you're comparing apples to apples, but I think we're able to look and have a pretty good idea. And be truthful with you, the insurance that both offered were pretty similar. I would say both of us came to the same conclusion that we've had a great relationship with Gibson Insurance over a long period of time. They did come in cheaper, so my recommendation will be to stay with Gibson.
Heard the explanation of what Dan and Candy went through. Any questions? Is there a motion?
So
Gibson was a low bid based on apples to apples?
Yeah, it wasn't that much, it wasn't even $10,000, it's about $8,000.
Well, I appreciate the fact that it's going to stay in Plymouth. I think that's very important. And I would recommend that we go with the low bid. Gibson.
I'm sorry.
I recommend that we go with the low bid. Gibson.
Is that a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Discussion.
Oh, as I alluded to, I'm glad we're keeping it in Plymouth. I think that's very important. And I think both companies do an excellent job. And I would have no problem with either one, except go with a little bit.
I think we're pretty lucky here to have two very reputable insurance companies, and thank you all for your bids.
Well, I would echo that. Not only are they, have them in our own community is pretty special, so it's nice to have a problem, I guess, of choosing between two very good companies, so thank you both. The other, and I think I know it's more than that, because I see what each firm does within the community, even outside of the business of insurance. So as strongly as I feel about giving back to the community, I see all of you doing that. So that makes it even better or more difficult to choose between two companies that, because for me, it's not one is better than the other. You have to pick. I had a partner at work one time. There's only room for one president. I mean, we can only pick one. That's probably not a good analogy these days, but I didn't mean to go there. But I really appreciate what both firms do. I would truly admit I am anything but an insurance expert. If we were insurance experts, why would we need experts like you, I suppose? But I appreciate all that you do in our community. Any other comments or questions? We have a motion and a second to accept the proposal from Gibson Insurance. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you both. We'll move on to item 3.5, consider year-end resolution. Consider year-end resolution, transfer of funds.
Yes, because we closed the year December 31st, and we do not have a board meeting again until January. We would like to ask permission with this resolution to do the normal transfer of funds and free rate checks.
This is standard each year.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 3.6, do we really have to do this? Or? Consider superintendent contract. You guys thought Hamilton was entertaining. We had our hearing, I think that's what it's called, at the last meeting to consider the superintendent's contract. I think in quick summary, there is no extension of the contract. And we've all talked through that, and that's not an indication that we don't think Dan should be extended. That's just an indication of timeframes. So there is no extension, so the year of the contract stays the same, final year of 2019. Won't be here that long. We're trying to get you through the end of the meeting here. So. As far as the financial components of the contract, no changes in terms of forms of compensation. The change in compensation is the same adjustment that was afforded to the teachers. I forget the percentage. Or the dollar amount.
That was about $1,300.
Yeah, so $1,300.
$1,311.
So with that, I'll consider a motion on the superintendent's contract.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second to approve. Discussion? I think I'll offer something. I know you said you won't be here to the end of the contract, and I understand. And I also understand in the almost 20 years now I've been sitting somewhere up here, we've been fortunate enough to have 2 superintendents. And for those of you that work with a lot of school corporations, and I'm, along the way, people can say, do we have the right person or not the right person? But for my chair, we've had the right people, and to have consistent and effective leadership from Dan, I've always appreciated. And while I understand we won't make it to the end of the contract, that doesn't necessarily make me happy. But what does make me happy is what you've done for the corporation, and I appreciate that. We have motion second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 3.7, consider administrator VIVA plan, change for beneficiaries.
Yes, it's, as now there was a regulation in federal law that changed that will now allow you to have beneficiaries, which used to be, it had to be dependent, and it no longer has to be an IRS dependent. You can now name a beneficiary for this VIVA.
So moved.
What, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We'll follow Robert's rules here. So when does that become available or effective?
There's some more stuff. I think it goes, effects January 1st. Sorry, January 1st. January 1st, everybody will be able to list a beneficiary.
Now, I'm assuming that's been communicated so everybody's aware or not aware? Or?
It will be.
Will
Once
be.
you pass this, then there will be notices going out to everyone.
Okay.
And there'll be forms for them to list. Okay?
I lost track. You didn't vote.
That's it.
All right. You've heard the recommendation and the explanation. Any other questions? We have a motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 3.8. This is hard to believe, but our next meeting will be 2017, so we need to set our first meeting date.
We recommend that the first meeting date in January will be January 3rd, the first Tuesday, 2017.
7 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
That works. Everybody? I'm sorry? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Probably moved.
I'm sorry? What did I
You have to
miss?
speak up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, speak up, Robin.
So moved. I thought you said Robin moved. It's like, we already went through it with somebody from that chair. So moved, that's what you said. I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry about that. We have motion second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, sorry, Dr. McKibben, but we're ready. 3.9, enrollment projections. If you've never sat through one of these, you're in for a treat.
Should I just stand here? Okay.
Sit down, you can.
Where's the,
And you know what, they put the clicker on the desk over there behind you.
Oh.
Brooke will grab it for you.
President, members of the board, and Dan, I'm so glad they agreed to the contract before I started, so. Very good. A couple months back, we were retained to do an update, revised population enrollment forecast for the district by census area, and presenting the results this evening. Try to do this as quickly as I can, but a couple points I want to bring up beforehand. Again, these are forecasts, not projections for any assumptions. And this is the state of Indiana, which is the only state in the country that has both open enrollment and vouchers at the same time. Some have vouchers, some open enrollment, and no state has both. So it's a whole new ballgame in Indiana now. So we've had to make some significant modifications, not just to your forecast, but most of your surrounding neighbors. As always in the forecast, there's the assumptions. I want to go through some of the key ones real quick, and probably the most important one is B, the 30-year fixed mortgage rate stays below 5%. Okay, very key issue because you don't have enough births in the school district to maintain your current enrollment size. You must have in-migration. And to move in, they have to buy a house. To get a house, you have to have a mortgage. So more on that later, but your housing market, along with your age structure, probably your big determining factors on future population and composition. I've been using this assumption for years now, and there's a bit of a generational problem here. To those of us who remember the 70s, 80s, 90s, you ladies into the 2000s, of course, remember 7, 8, 9, 10, 11% 30-year fixed. 5 sounds pretty good. Okay? To the kids today who've been buying houses for the last 8, 9 years, that's seen nothing but 3, 3.5, and 4. 5 sounds like highway robbery. Okay? There's a big, big difference there. And 2 points in the news I want to point out that are really pertinent to this is, one, you may have all seen the news article a few months ago where the average college graduate comes out with $35,000 in student loan debt. What the article didn't tell you was the average college graduate marries a college graduate. We're talking $70,000 in household debt. That's why the mortgage approval rate is only at about 62% right now. Second factor, 30-year fixed been bouncing around pretty much around the 3.5, 3.7 range for the last couple of years. In the last month, it's gone up 0.7 of a point. And if Yellen raises rates later this month, like she's supposed to, I would not be surprised to have it up to 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 by the time April comes around, which is prime home buying season. So we're going to start testing that 5% level. Now, anytime you're using a percent in an assumption is a tipping point. If it goes to 5.1, 5.2, stays a couple months, drops down, it's a slight drag. If it goes to 7%, it's like hitting a brick wall. Same thing with unemployment rates. But we will be testing that. If at this time next year, when I call up Dan and say, send me your ADM numbers for performance evaluation, see how the forecasts are doing, and it's about 5%, I'm probably going to be running too high. I'll be the first person to tell you that. That's probably the most important assumption. The other ones I want to look at is housing foreclosure rate. Full disclosure, we use Zillow and RealtyTrack for our housing data. You get to the parcel level. Most people don't realize this. Everything about your house is public domain data. It's now on the internet. So we can get homes sold, how long they've been on the market for, how much they asked, how much they got, whether they're in foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, behind on their payments. Great with Go Home, type in realtytrack.com, put your address in, there'll be a little promo thing, and you can see who all of your friends and neighbors are behind on the mortgages. Great way to spice the Christmas party and all that.
Can you tell if my daughter cleaned her room or not? Or no?
Huh?
Can you tell if my daughter cleaned her room or no?
Well, we can tell you just about anything, but some things just doesn't need to be said at a public meeting. So, unemployment rate for Marshall and the South Bend metropolitan area, a very large proportion. Marshall is actually part of metropolitan South Bend because more than 50% of your workers who live in the county work in South Bend. 7% against a tipping point. If it goes 7.1 to 2, stays a couple months, a small impact. If it goes to 12% like it was in 2009, it's a big impact. Your intra-district transfer policy remains the same for the next 10 years. The students transferring in and out are 11 to 15. A key one here, the Plymouth Community Schools continues to draw at least 290 out-of-district student transfers over the next 10 years. We've had to put that assumption for all Indiana school districts. What are you gaining? What are you losing? In fact, when we just did an evaluation for Nettle Creek down by Richmond, and our forecast for 40 or 35 students too low. Second line underneath, what was their change in transfers? They let 35 more students in. The forecasts were right, they just let more kids in. We do this with all administrative policies. We hold them constant. There's a very key reason for this too, actually. One, I have no idea what your policy is going to be in 2019. You probably don't even know right now, okay? But the second one is, if you hold them constant, the changes you see in both population enrollment are demographic changes only. They're not due to any kind of policy changes or anything like that. So the holding them constant, you're seeing a true demographic impact of it. So those are probably the key assumptions here. Very few distressed sales. Well, one more, your housing turnover rate. 85% of your housing market is existing home sales. New home construction's the icing on the cake. That's pretty much all over the country now, too. Very, very few areas have more than 20% of their housing market new home construction. So the turnover and the sale of existing homes is basically going to dictate what your housing market is going to look like. Now, your home sales is very healthy. House goes in the market, it's rarely on for more than 6 weeks. You usually get full asking price. That's not the problem. The problem is just not enough of them. And more on that in a second. As we look at the population pyramid, 2010 census, and this pretty well tells the tale of the tape right here. Now, people always say 2010 census, that's 6-year-old data, what good is that? Well, it gives you a good starting point, and it shows you what your demographic dynamics are. And they're easy to read. 0 to 4, that's your preschool. That's your elementary, middle, high school. 20 to 34, call prime fertility ages. 80 to 85% of all births are women in the ages 20 to 34 years old. 35 to 54, that's the ages where most people have kids in school. These are your households that are putting children in their either elementary, middle school, high school. Now there are exceptions to these rules. I'm using a generality. I was a first-time father at 40. My son went into high school when I was 54. I had to go to all the meetings, and people always come with a nice, well-behaved grandson I had. You know, there's a few of us out there, but not many of us. 55 to 69 is empty nest households. It's not retirement that drives people to put their house on the market. About 4% submerged, maybe about 12% total will move to other parts of the country. If people do move, they usually move within about 30, 40 miles. The reason people put their house on the market in the elderly ages is the death of one of the spouses. Then the house is too big. Maintenance is an issue. And so if you know an area's homeowners and age structure, is a proxy measurement of how many homes will go on the market over the next 10 years. And here's the challenge for Plymouth. Clearly, over the next 10 years, you're going to see a rapid increase in the number of homes turning over. That housing market will grow, clearly. The problem is the number of households empty nesting is going to grow faster. And anytime you have this slight hourglass figure here, where you've got more people with kids in school age than you've got having kids, you're going to have what's called a deficit. And this is where people have problems with the dynamics. They see a new household move in, they see a new house built, and you want to add it to what you already have, not realizing the cohorts coming in behind it are smaller. You have to make up for that deficit first. Then you have growth. In the case of Plymouth, you need about 75 to 80 new households a year moving in just to break even. Okay? So you'll see. So what you're seeing, I see in migration, I see people moving in. Why are our enrollment growing? That's why. Okay? So, and quickly, we refer to this also as your demographic fingerprint because no two attendance areas of school districts are the exact size, shape of their pyramid. And you quickly go through. Here's Jefferson. Jefferson doesn't have a deficit. Why? Because Jefferson's got a higher proportion of people in prime childbearing age. Well, that's tied into also apartments. Washington, almost break even when you put the two bars together, but a much more even distribution of the population and young people in their 20s. Conversely, Menominee, which has a very large deficit in the 20s relative to the older population, has a much larger deficit, and it goes consistent over time. And then same thing with Webster, very severe drop in the 20s and a very severe deficit. So each individual attendance area has its own unique dynamics. That's why we build the models for each elementary area, because each one has its own characteristics. And these are 34% of the district's households have under 18 population. Pretty even spread here. By the way, that includes preschoolers too. There's not a school district in the country today where households with school-aged kids are a majority. The last one was in Utah about 12 years ago, not surprisingly. It looks like your persons per household are pretty even too, 44, 63, 56, but real kind of a crude measurement on this, you have mom, dad, whatever the point is, the kids. Well, in these two areas, you've got 0.2 difference, but on 5,000 households, that's 100 kids. So the difference in that household size represents almost all children in your analysis. Householders 35, 54, about 38%, pretty even, but this number is dropping, has been for the last 6 years, and will continue to drop over the next 10 years. Householders over the age of 65, 25%, quarter of your households over 65, and it's going up. And kind of a wide range here between the homeowners, as high as 82, low with a couple of the 63s, but particularly in Menominee, you're going to have a particularly large number of elderly homeowners putting their homes on the market in the next 10 years. The question then becomes, will it be enough, fast enough, to make up for the empty nesting? You're trying to balance, two different variables here. And when you're doing the total analysis, you're looking at about 12 or 14 different variables at one time. Some are positive, some are negative. Single-person households, it probably surprises people. A quarter of the households in Plymouth are single-person households. The good news, 11% of them are single and over 65. This is usually a case where one of the homeowners has died, and this gives you an idea of how many of those households will go on the market over the next 10 years. We pull out retirement communities because of gorge populations, whole different dynamics. This is pretty much homeowners here. This is something we've added since the last forecast series, my new favorite table, because we can track what you've done the last 5 years and what you should have done. These are the absolute cohort sizes by attendance area. In 2010, the 5-year-olds here are your kindergarten. That's your first grade, second, third, fourth, fifth. In 2015, this is your kindergarten cohort, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So we can look at the resident population change year to year. If you have a big cohort come in, is it really growth or a big cohort? Or if you have a small cohort come in, is it really a decline or out-migration or just a small cohort? For example, here, look at Washington. 32, 29, boom, goes to 44. A substantial increase. Well, you should have an increase that year because it's a big cohort. Okay, so you can isolate what cohort changes and what real demographic changes. And this is it for the district. And this kind of shows you part of the problem right here. These are the size of the cohorts coming in the last 5 years, roughly in 260, 280 range. These are the ones going on the middle school. 780, 330, you got a big cohort here that's now in 9th grade. We can make these cohort effects, and vary from area to area. So the question becomes, do you have enough in-migration to build up the size of these small preschool age cohorts so that when they get to age 5 and 6, they're at least the same size or bigger that would show growth? And we do that by calculating what we call the market share. And this is the district level. We do it for all the attendance areas. But we take what your enrollment had been for that year, and the resident enrollment works best. Compare it to the population size of that cohort, and we calculate the percentage. And we look and see what the percentage does over time. So in 2011, this is second graders are now third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and we can track that over time. If the percentages go up, you had in-migration. If they go down, you had out-migration. And from that, we can then imputate household migration patterns, because it's been my experience over the years that when a third grader moves, they tend to take the whole family with them. So you can make that leap of logic there. So, and you can see in most cases, it stays pretty flat. Okay, some up, some down, some variation here, but it's not that much. You've got in-migration, and you're getting about that 75 to 80 new households a year you need to break even, but that's about it. What we do for each attendance area is we calculate a population forecast. There's two ways to read this. You can look at change over time. Take the elementary students, 1435, 1480, 13, or follow cohort diagonally. These 0 to 4 become 5 to 9, become 10 to 14, 15, 19. And you can see in all cases we have net in-migration from 0 to 4 going into 5 and 9, and that's going along with their parents also. The problem is it's not a high enough level to keep the numbers constant. Your births drop slightly. Why they drop slightly? Because your childbearing population drops slightly. Your deaths go up slightly. Is there a plague? No. If you have what we call demography, an increase in people in prime dying age. I know we got to find a better term than that, but that's what we're using right now. So, net migration, this is for periods 10 to 15, 310, 270, 250. People always go, oh my God, I know there was more than 310 people move in. Well, yeah, they're right. It's net migration. People moving in minus people moving out. As you can see here, your 10 to 15, or 15 to 19 is dropping rather significantly as they go to 2024, because you're suffering from what I call the curse of the successful school district. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong on these numbers. 80% of your high school graduates go on to post-secondary education, right?
No, that's a little less than that. It's about 65 in the gym.
Correct.
65?
65 to 70.
65 to 70?
65 to 70.
65 to 70.
That's not
Does that include...
military now.
Oh, okay. Does it include like Ivy Tech?
It does.
Okay. Okay. You're still a successful school district then. They go away, they don't come back. They move away. They're not here to produce next generation kids. The people moving into the Plymouth Community School District are not the same ones that moved away 5, 10 years earlier. Okay. There's a great reference theory, because this year the classes of 2011, 2006, and 2001 are having their 15, 10, and 5-year reunions. Go to the reunions, talk to the alumni, and see how many still live in the school district. If it's 20%, you're doing real well. Most districts about 15. I went to Carroll over at Northwest Allen. We just had our X-year reunion, and out of 208 in the district, only like 30 lived there at any time since we graduated. You know, no one went back. Yet Northwest Allen's had booming growth over the last 20 years. Well, it wasn't from, you know, the classes of the 70s coming back. It was coming out from Fort Wayne. These population forecasts drive the enrollment forecast by each area. And for those in the audience, my apologies, this is designed to go blind, but here's your historical. If I can read it out to you, you're right now sitting at about 3598. Now, we've held your out-of-district transfers constant. If you let more in, you need to add it to these numbers. If you let fewer in, you need to subtract it from these numbers. We'll do this in the evaluation. But you're on a slight decline, okay? And one reason why you decline slightly, you've got some rather large 12th grade classes going out, okay? You'll notice I don't have the first grade dropping that much. Just don't quite have enough households moving in to turn that trend around, okay? You'll see it in the elementary, the K-4 actually kind of bottoms out at 2020, okay, because again, you've got the cohort stabilization impact in there. But as long as you're drawing roughly 290, you're seeing a real slight decline. You only go down to I have a 3327 5 years from now. And I should probably put a plug in there. You're doing much, much better than most of your neighbors. This is not a Plymouth phenomenon. This is going on all over the state of Indiana. And open enrollment is only just part of it. But, let me go back one slide, go back to the fundamental problem. Your median age, 38 going up to 41 and a half. Once your median age is above 40, that's an elderly population. Half your population is over the age of 41 years old. It's really hard to have enough people in prime childbearing age to have enough kids to keep your 0 to your 5 to 9 cohort above 1,400, which is where we need to be for stabilization. So, I guess on that cheery note, I'll open up the questions.
Can you go back to the next chart? Where you were?
Yeah.
So knowing all these assumptions will hold true.
Mm-hmm.
Down 200?
Pretty much. That's if you keep your out-of-district transfers constant.
And I think I've asked you this question before. There's no way to predict what happens over that time frame to, I don't want to name names, but all over Indiana, smaller school corporations are struggling.
Well, I'll tell you guys what I said down at the business managers meeting last year. In the next 10 years in Indiana, we're going to close about 30 high schools. We're going to close about 60 to 80 middle schools. We're going to close about 120 elementaries. And we're going to lose probably what I would imagine somewhere close to 40 school districts. And it's pretty much inevitable. Either going to go broke or what? Open enrollment's just speeding the process.
But none of that is predictable or reflected in.
Well, actually, you can predict it because we know where they're coming from, and we can look at their demographic dynamics as well. There are certain school districts in your situation where you have smaller districts around you, you can grade, well, they're running out of students as well. But you have other districts like Smith Green, Churubusco, Hamilton Heights that are getting about anywhere from 70 to 150 students a year from like Northwest and Noblesville, because parents want to go to a smaller, people into a smaller high school, so they're kind of living off of that. Well, that's a whole different dynamic, drawing your kids out of a growing area with a jumbo high school than drawing your kids from declining rural areas that have an even smaller 20-year-old base that you've got. The school districts in the small cities in Indiana are going to probably be the survivors on this. Jasper comes to mind, Lebanon, Plymouth, Valparaiso, maybe, trying to think of another one, maybe Logansport, but that's going to take some changes to do that. There's some structural problems out there that's going to have to be a factor. But the state's made it clear they're not going to cough up any more money, and they're not going to give you money to rebuild 60-year-old schools. And that's part of the problem is a lot of school districts have buildings that were built during the 50s, 60s, and 70s handled baby boom that are now at the end of their useful life. You need to point, well, you don't need a 600-student school in your district when you only have 400 kids in there. Or you have a couple of buildings like that. So you go to the state, try to get money, well, we're not giving you money for it. You don't need that many. And that's why they're denying it all the time. And basically, it's going to force them to consolidate. Or they could give them a school district. Penn Harris Mass gets 1,200 students a year now in the district. That's over 10% of their enrollment. Did I defend them or something?
No, he has to take them home from
Oh, okay.
South Bend kids. Sorry.
I'm always worried about that.
It's just migration.
Huh?
It's just migration.
Oh, well, someone got mad at me last week because I said that you're just too old to have kids, and they just all got checked off.
I'm working on Amy and Alex, guys, just so you know. My daughter, her husband, getting it going. I want to be here.
But it's, the open enrollment wild card, not so much the vouchers, that's kind of been overblown. A lot of mythology running around that one. I still use Penn-Harris Mass as my favorite example. They first, one of the first districts in the state that really grasped out-of-district enrollment. So you figure, well, they just draw huge from South Bend and Mishawaka and Elkhart. I've been doing it since 2001. First year, all the way through, the largest or almost near the largest number of students they get for transfers is from private schools. Not South Bend Community, not Mishawaka, not Elkhart, it's the private schools. You think about it. I'm already providing transportation to my kid to private school, and I can do this, I have to sell my house and save $5,000 on tuition. It's a win-win deal for me. So they may have picked up more kids on the vouchers, but they've lost their best students going out to suburban areas. You know, do that now. It's really been a game changer.
It was interesting.
Very.
We need more pretzel factories.
Is that the solution, pretzel factories?
Any kind of factory.
We just had a pretzel factory by a building here to set up shop. It's got peanut butter on the inside.
About time to start a brewery then, I think.
I think it's a great idea.
To get more kids.
I wonder, is it, you have a question? Like, what do you really do with this information as far as the school to predict or to try and help, and how do you partner with or bring other businesses into, because that's really the idea, right? Bringing talent, bringing those 20 to 30-year-olds to Plymouth. I mean, that's kind of what you do with this,
Well,
right?
you can, but that's not really the job of the school district, that's more the job of the municipality, the county. The district is actually rather limited in what they can do. And most school districts do a really good job of what they can do is, if you're going to draw more people in, have a good, solid school district or good school. If they've done that, they've done their job, okay? This whole idea of the school districts go out and help draw more people in, there's not much more they can do than that, okay? It's more of a macro structural thing. One, first thing you do, if people move in, they have a place to live, okay? And either going to be existing home sales or new home sales. And the developers who got burnt bad during the 08 bust are real skeptical about putting up any more houses than absolutely necessary, particularly since you have, not only just here, but all over the Midwest, in fact all over the country, you have this extraordinarily large number of baby boomers that's going to start downsizing their houses here. So, now what you might want to do is put more elder housing up here for people who like living. Most people like living in Plymouth, at least the ones I've talked to. The only people who don't like living in Plymouth are people between the ages of 15 and 19 years old. They hate it here. Can't wait to get out here, nothing to do, you know. So, but if you could let your downsizers say, well, if you want to stay in the community, but you know, there's no housing for me here, there's someplace else, but I would stay if I could go to a nice, not assisted living, but elder housing, something, you know, in the area with bus transportation, they would move out, and those houses go on the market, which allow new young people to move in too. And I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to shine that on you. Yes. Because remember, it's not so much bringing industry to here, you are, in essence, a suburban community of the metropolitan South Bend area, okay? And unfortunately, that's kind of out of your hands because their economy is actually in worse shape than yours. Okay. It's kind of like the people in South Lake County, you know, I mean, they were hitched to Gary for years. that when Gary went to hell in a handbasket, they all moved down there, but now they're going over to Chicago or Illinois, someplace like that, or to Valparaiso. So you've got the migration of suburban workers, and also now, we're going to bring in a job. Well, talk to young professionals, who are married to young professionals. They tend to be drawn to places where both of them can get a job. You can't just live at one job anymore now. You have to live at two jobs. And that's why ex-urban areas around major metropolitan areas have a chance of drawing, because he may have a job here in Plymouth, or she may have a job here in Plymouth. The spouse can go South Bend and get a job. That'd be a big enough and diverse enough economy to do both of them. That's why rural areas that don't have that diversity in their job types are the ones that get killed.
And to further answer your question, if we saw different numbers, it's like, gosh, are we going to have enough room? Do we need? So it's really a facility, an element of our capacity, if you will, as we look over the next 10 years. So it's information for that perspective as well, our class sizes. So it's
The numbers affect state funding too, which is extremely important.
For a long time, we were able to predict what our enrollment was going to be. We would get pretty close to it. But the last 2 years, we've been off because our kindergarten classes have been down about 50 students each year. So that's why we had Dr. McKibben in, is to talk to us about that. Is it something that's short-lived, or is it just, or is it going to be with us?
And unfortunately, it's got some legs to it.
Yeah.
It's that whole aging thing.
I think a bigger part of this also, like you said, is building our community up. I mean, working very hard to build a new Boys and Girls Club, the tennis courts, the pools, downtown parks. Those are things that make people want to come here and live with younger children. I know as a businessman and an owner, I have a tough time drawing people to this area just because of some of that aspects. If they want to come here or be where there's a lot more activity. We're actually building more activity around here. That's good. I think that'll help us.
Yes. It's just, it's a whole different ballgame. A lot of people went to grad school with Bowling Green are from Plymouth. My office mate is from Plymouth area.
It's the center of the universe. It's the center of the universe.
Well, some people that think so, but you got a lot of competition. That's the problem. And the demographic dynamics of not just here in Indiana, but across the country, of the over 40 population and the under 40, the under 30 population are completely different. Completely different. And you can't use the trends of the older to generalize trends of the younger. Or as my son so perfectly put it to me, what may be nice and cool to you, Dad, is boring as hell to us. Well, that's a good point, and what may seem like minuscule money for you for college is actually huge dollars for me, so we taught it on that one. Sure.
Well, a couple of things I wanted to kind of hit on is you made a comment, when you talked to 15 and 19-year-olds, and I hope there was some humor in on that they're the ones that don't like this area. But realistically, if it's the 15 and 19-year-olds that don't like this area and you can't wait to move out, then those are the ones that's going to go off and have kids somewhere else.
Right, just like every place else.
Right, so I still think that we need to make sure that the school's doing something that they don't think they want to move out.
It's just the fact, it was humor, and there's the fact of being 15, 19-year-olds. No 15 or 19-year-old likes where they're living, even if they're in LA or New York or wherever it might be. Nobody likes it, okay? You can't wait to go to the
I would say you're just confirming I'm weird.
They're going to go along. The difference is, from our generation, that graduated in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where 2/3 of our fellow classmates would probably stay in the home county. Now it's less than a quarter. Okay, that's a whole different dynamic now. Where it used to be you'd stay and marry the girl. You don't marry the girl with the boy next door. You marry the boy with the girl next door now. Okay, so it's completely different. And part of that, two factors, is the huge increase in college participation, and particularly the huge increase in female college participation, workforce participation. It's a much more mobile population now. So don't put myself up as too much an example. I'm from Fort Wayne area. My wife's from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Our son was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. We now live in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And, you know, it's been moving all over the place. The higher your degree, the more mobile you become, okay? So, and it's trying to do that kind of a catchment. So, and quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, the days of the freestanding city and county, we're going to have our own economic development, draw people here, it's over, and it's never going to return. Everything now fires in a metropolitan level area. So you have to work with your fellow communities. You know, like when they put that auto plant down by Evansville, I said, you know, they may get the tax money, but all the 8 to 10 surrounding districts get the population. You all win on this. And that's been a real hard thing I think for communities to do, is realize it's all of us, okay? You know, like you think northern Indiana, but you start looking at on a metropolitan level area. You know, the collar counties around Fort Wayne benefit from Fort Wayne doing well. I'm going down to Auburn, Indiana later this week, do the same kind of presentation. And they realize there that, you know, yeah, there's additional jobs in the town of Auburn, which is a lot like Plymouth. You know, almost the same distance away from Fort Wayne. You guys are from South Bend, a little bit of freeway access. They realize that if the Fort Wayne economy, particularly the healthcare industry, slows down, it's going to adversely affect their district. You know, they've now realized that and trying to look at aspects of what would be beneficial for them in the context of the metropolitan area. Columbia City is as much of a competitor for them as any other place. It's going to go west, it's going to go north, not so much south, but they are with the airport, things like that. So these are more the more important micro factors today now than we would see in past days. But this whole idea of it's us against the world just isn't going to wash anymore. So.
Interesting. Any other questions for Dr. McKinley? Good report.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
One point I do want to, before I close, okay, as I mentioned earlier, we do performance evaluations on all of our forecasts for all of our districts the first 3 years afterwards. I call up Dan, he'll send me your ADM numbers, and we'll see how close we are. Now, you're not going to have 3,559 students next year. I'll tell you that right now. What we've done for a confidence interval, if the assumptions are holding and you don't let any more students in or they stop going, a 2% band around this line here, which is roughly about 70 students. As long as you, and usually first 3 years in, we're less than 1% off. So if we're staying in that band there, then that means the assumptions are holding and then the forecasts are good. Okay. I just got a call from Bloomington, Illinois, and they stayed in the 2% band. They're now in the 9th year of their forecast. They want to do forecasts, not because they're off, because the time's up. Okay. As long as they stay in that band there, you're okay shape. It's 3% around the school level. Okay. It's a bigger percent because it's smaller number we're working off of. And we'll track that for the first 3 years. And if there's anything that comes, you start to go high or low, we'll go and take a look at it, report back to Dan and say, okay, we're seeing X happening. Slow down the existing home sales, spike in the employment rate, increase in the 30-year fixed mortgage above close to or above 5%, something that would cause it. It's not so much finding the error, it's trying to find out what's causing it. And that's included in part of this contract.
Thank you.
Thank you
And if you do have any other questions, Dan knows how to get a hold of me for some strange reason. You know, track me down.
What bad news? Call Jerome.
Hey, I'm fun at parties, I'll tell you.
Thank you very much. It's a lot to absorb, but useful, very useful. Do we have a project?
We're done.
Okay. Superintendent remarks.
Sure. Superintendent, commitment to students, the big hand goes out to all of our schools for the programs honoring veterans on Veterans Day. The high school, led by the band and the choir, put on a grand show honoring veterans, and there were probably 50 veterans there. So it was really impressive. 4.2, Caring, the Riverside Spell Bowl team won the district contest, and the Plymouth High School team placed third place in the state in the largest school division. So great job to all the kids on the Spell Bowl. 4.3, High Expectations. Once again, Riverside and Washington have been named a new tech demonstration site for the 2016-2017 school year. Teamwork, high school television class, along with some other groups in town, shot some video for the WNIT series, Hometown Plymouth. The team worked to help turn out a great TV show that aired last week. DVDs are available for sale through WNIT, and I've got more information on it if you didn't see it and you want to get a DVD. It was really interesting. And our students were the ones that shot a lot of the video. Starting in Integrity 4.5, starting in January, principals will be giving presentations on their I-STEP scores, showing where they improve and where they fell short from last year. And 4.6, Enjoyment. It's been a long wait for the I-STEP scores. Most of our schools either stayed very close to their benchmark or showed a lot of improvement. Our next board meeting is on Tuesday, January 3rd at 7 o'clock p.m. There will be a Board of Finance meeting immediately after the regular meeting. Also, I would like to remind you that our holiday party is Wednesday after school, so about 4 to 4:30 in the Red Rock Cafe at the high school. We'll be having the holiday party, and if you'd like to stop in, you can. There's some good food and some good conversation. That's all we have.
Any questions for Dan? Are there any members of the audience that have any additional questions or comments on agenda items?
I just reiterate Veterans Day. My father-in-law's 92, World War II vet, and my dad also, Korean War vet, and they just ran it and raved about the program every year. So I want to thank you guys for doing that. That means lots of very important people to us.
If no one else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you. Yeah, please.